listening to the Cruise with Bruce radio program on Block Talk Radio. I'm Bruce Oliver, the host of this program, and I'm broadcasting from Enfield, Connecticut. Good evening. Today is Thursday, October 7th, 2010. My guest today is Dr. Paul Davis. Dr. Davis was trained in family practice and emergency medicine in Canada, the United Kingdom, and the United States. For 10 years, he traveled to over 100 countries in his career as a cruise ship doctor. Now he's written a riveting new book drawing on his experiences. This book will enthrall mystery fans, crime drama addicts, medical drama fans, and compulsive travel book readers alike. In today's program, we'll talk about the cruises he's been on as a ship's doctor. We'll also hear about his new book, Cruise Ship Crime, a medical murder mystery. The book is available on my website. Just click on cruisewithbruce.com and go to the Blog Talk Radio link. And it's also on blogtalkradio.com as well as many other places that Dr. Davis has. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Future broadcasts, I'm going to be talking to someone who came to the United States as a boy from Greece, and he's going to talk about his visit to see his brother in Athens last year with his wife and daughter. We'll also, on another program, talk to an international soccer star and sports reporter from Brazil. For current Vacation Club specials, you can visit my site and click on Vacation Club specials. One of the main specials I'm looking at right now is an 8-day, 7-night cruise to the Eastern Caribbean for $420. Absolutely incredible. Well, good evening, Dr. Davis. Welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Compared to most medical practitioners, you've had an interesting career. If you could, spend a couple of minutes and talk about yourself and why you decided to work as a cruise ship doctor.
Well, actually, it was just a happening as to doing that. I was working in an emergency room in Seattle, Washington, and the doc who scheduled our sessions in the emergency room came to me one day in December and said, Paul, would you like to go and spend 2 weeks in an emergency room type situation in Puerto Rico? And I said, Puerto Rico, December versus Seattle in December? Yeah, sure, okay. And he said, well, there's one catch. He said, it won't be on land. You'll be the ship's doctor for a cruise line. And I said, okay, what does that mean? And he said, well, you'll have a clinic every day and you'll be on call 24/7. And, but otherwise it's just like any other emergency room or family medicine. And I said, okay, fine. And that was my first experience. I was ship's doc for one of the Carnival ships and spent a great deal of my time sewing up young men and young ladies who were throwing deck chairs at each other when they drank too much, but it was otherwise a very interesting trip, and I said, gee, this is kind of interesting. And when I got back, he said, well, would you be willing to do that again? And I said, sure, and that kind of started the ball rolling.
My word, that's interesting, how life moves and how things change. What's a normal day for a ship's doctor, other than sewing up people that thrown chairs at each other?
Well, that's a little unusual. We don't see that too often. A usual day is something that is never usual. Unfortunately, being a ship's doctor, there's always something that is different. And what happens is that you get up fairly early usually. Hopefully grab some food and hopefully get a chance to go to the gym and do some exercise. And then you have morning clinic. And morning clinic will include first a clinic for the crew, and because you are the doctor for the crew, and you see their various problems, some of which are real and some aren't, and you proceed to take care of as much as you can of that, and then also deal with getting them appointments for specialists on shore if that is needed, doing tests, and lots of paperwork. And then after crew hour, then you're starting to do a clinic for the passengers. And this entails seeing everything from snotty noses to high fevers to lots and lots of stomach problems to then, of course, taking care of, Doc, I forgot my medicine. I came on board and, I forgot to take my medicine for my diabetes or my epilepsy with me. So then you deal with all that. Then, of course, you have safety meetings. You have meetings with the captain. You have, because you are usually a three-star officer on the ship, and so you have to attend all management meetings. You have inspections. You have a variety of other functions on the ship. If you're lucky and there are no emergencies, there's nobody sitting in the hospital, you get to then either have lunch or sleep, or if you're in port, maybe go and get an hour or two of visiting in port before you come back to the ship or come out of your bed, and you start all over again with afternoon crew hour and then afternoon passengers. And of course you're on duty 24/7, so if there are any emergencies in the day, night, or evening, you're called. And if you have certain ships will require you to host a table of passengers at dinner, so you will often have to do that, dress up quickly, and go and see passengers and be pleasant. And sometimes you'll have some interesting dinner partners, and sometimes you'll hope that somebody calls you, and then at some point you get to go to sleep, hopefully.
Right. I hear you. Wow, that's fascinating. You just, I'm going to touch on medication in a couple minutes, and passengers sitting with a ship's. What destinations have you been to?
Name me a few places that I haven't been, and that's probably an easier way of doing it. The ships I've been on have cruised most of Central and South America, the Pacific coast of the U.S., including Alaska and Canada. I've been across the Pacific to Russia, China, and down the coast of China through Indonesia, through Southeast Asia, through Indonesia, India, Australia. Been through the middle of the Pacific, be it Hawaii, Fanning Island, the French Polynesian Islands. One cruise had us going back and forth around the French Polynesian Islands, which was always nice. South America, as I say, in South America going to Antarctica. Spent one season being the ship stock for a ship that went to Antarctica. The Caribbean, of course. the north part of Africa. I've never sailed around Africa, so that's one place I haven't done. Azores, the Mediterranean, of course, the British Isles. Was involved in doing the fitting and design of a medical department for one ship, and was located in Brittany in France, so that was obviously one place we spent time. The Black Sea, going up to St. Petersburg, and it is an interesting cruise, in Finland and Sweden along the way there. And obviously going through the Suez Canal, Egypt to the Middle East, and I've been on cruises. In fact, one fairly recently that went from Dubai up to Crete. That was a rather interesting cruise, going past Somalia and having a couple of commandos on board with machine guns to help protect the passengers, and helicopters coming buzzing by every once in a while to make sure that we were still okay. And so lots of places.
What's your favorite place? Too many I'm asked that a number of times. I've been to 38 countries. Certainly not as much as you, but this has all been pleasure for me. And that's a difficult question to answer, so you may not be able to answer it.
Yeah, I can't say I have a favorite place. There are a lot of favorite places. I mean, I love the west coast of France and the Netherlands, and I love Antarctica. Iceland is a fascinating place. Just even there's some very interesting places in the Caribbean. I mean, you go to some of these islands that aren't terribly highly populated, and that becomes very interesting too.
Right. What was your first cruise? Oh, you went to Puerto Rico, and that was to the Caribbean?
Yes, that was a Caribbean cruise, and basically had us going around the Caribbean and then back to Puerto Rico.
And the last cruise you went on, we talked briefly about this a little while ago, was to Vietnam and Mekong?
Yes, it was a trip from Siem Reap to Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon, on the Mekong River, and I was on a river boat. It was able to carry 92 passengers, but there were only 37 of us, so that was a nice amount of space. And every day you had very interesting places to visit, and lots of interesting views from the ship, and then they would take you off onto a variety of tenders just to see various little towns and floating villages, and it was a very, very interesting week-long trip, certainly one that I would well recommend.
Yes, I've got people that are from Vietnam that I know, and I guess Vietnam is beginning to open up to tourism and cruises and things like this, so it's a place to go in the future, I imagine. When somebody goes on a cruise, there's always health issues. Other than the run-of-the-mill things, are there special you would say to, let's say you've got a patient right now that you talk about health issues while cruising? And one thing is, I never thought about it because I am very, very diligent about making sure medications in my bag. I take Synthroid for the thyroid, but what if somebody forgets their medication?
Well, fortunately, because ships are often not where they can access other medical care on a regular basis, ships have to carry a fair bit of medicine and supplies with them. So we do tend to carry a fairly decent supply, and depends on the size of the ship and the size of the number of passengers. We tend to carry a fair number of medications, both injectable and oral. And so if somebody should forget, hopefully we have that on board. Synthroid or the thyroid medicine would be one of the kinds of medicine we would tend to have on board. So the person can come in, we can hopefully find out what the medicine is instead of the sometimes, oh, it's a little green pill, doc. And you say, okay, what's the little green pill for? And, oh, it's for my heart. Okay. So sometimes we have to do a lot of blood tests, or, sometimes we have to do other exams to figure out what they really are on and what it's for. Sometimes we'll have to call their doctor on shore. Sometimes we have to, do other things to find out what it is. And some people, have medicines that we have no way of carrying, and we have to then try to get it in the next port. And we'll call ahead to try to get it, and, that sort of thing. So, those are some of the things that you can do to try to help somebody who has, been able to come on board without their brain or their medicine.
Right, exactly. Now, is this something, is this a service that the cruise lines offer, no fee, or is there a charge for this? Like if you're doing tests, it just didn't cost anything. I mean, it costs money to do tests. It costs money to provide all this other stuff. How do passengers pay for this? Is it something that comes out of their medical insurance or travel insurance or something like that?
Most ships will charge directly to the passenger for their services, be it medicines or tests, x-rays, lab, whatever. If they go on shore to have tests done, then they pay the hospital or the clinic directly, making sure that they keep receipts, because if they have certain kinds of travel insurance, they can often get reimbursement for part of that. I've never been on a ship where they bill directly to an insurance company, so it's inherent for the passenger to keep their receipts. If it's a matter of a dire emergency, somebody fell off the 14th deck and, is, drunk and disorderly, whatever, they will, the ship will usually take care of dire emergencies and worry about, getting paid later. I mean, obviously the whole reason we're there is to try to keep people healthy, and so that they can enjoy their cruise. And so if we can do that and save them from having to be disembarked, that of course is what we would try to do.
Exactly. Now, a lot of people experience seasicknesses, and I know there's all kinds of remedies. What's the best thing that you found for treatments of seasickness and things like that? In my book there are a couple of rather humorous cures for it.
The best thing, of course, is to not be seasick by nature. Then, of course, there are, if you want to go naturally, there's things like ginger, and there are things like various bands that you can wear that hit on certain acupuncture points that are quite effective at eliminating the run-of-the-mill seasickness. There are other allopathic medicines, everything from Gravol, which is a type of antihistamine, which is marketed heavily here in Canada, to other kinds of antihistamines that will make you very, very sleepy. There is a patch that, for right reasons, was taken off the market for many years. This is the scopolamine patch. It's another form of an antihistamine or anti-nauseant, which you wear for 36 hours. These, unfortunately, have a lot of side effects and are very dangerous for people with certain medical conditions. So unless somebody has really been tested and sees their doctor back home, it's probably an unwise thing to do. One of the other very simple things that you can do to keep from being nauseated is to not eat too much and to watch what kinds of things you eat. If you're eating lots of fried, greasy food, or very rich foods, and there's a little motion in the sea, it's not too hard to get seasick. Same with a lot of alcohol. If you're drinking excessive amounts of alcohol and the sea's a little rough, your inner ear is probably going to suffer from that, and you may well end up with some seasickness.
Very interesting. Everybody that's traveled any time on ships, I've been on 9 cruises myself, I just laid down. And it was only one time. I don't normally get seasick. It was just a very, very rough sea that particular time, and unusual for me to get sick. But I ended up going to the cabin, just laying down, and I was fine.
Of course,
what prompted you?
You want that to be a cabin in the midship. If you pick a cabin that's way forward or way aft, and it's a rough sea, you're going to see a lot more motion, and laying down in your cabin is probably not going to do you any good. That's when you go to the medical center and we give you a shot. Medical centers are usually midship, lay you down, give you some fluids, whatever, and then it usually will resolve.
Now, what about going on the top levels versus the lower levels? Is there anything about that?
Yeah, the higher you are, the more motion. The higher forward and aft you are, the more motion. The least motion is as close to the base of the ship as you can, and in the middle. That's where you get the least amount of motion. Right.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So you've been on 100 cruises, and now you're back in private practice, and you've written one book that is going to be successful. What prompted you to write this book? Was it another instance where somebody said, "Boy, you had quite a varied experience. Why don't you write a book about it?"
Well, I think that was probably the main reason. I mean, when you're at sea and the ship's doctor, there are hundreds of situations that are really quite humorous, quite touching, and interesting. And I keep a journal anyway, and I would write these down, and I'd chat with fellow crew members. and explained some of the situations that occurred, and besides bolting over with laughter sometimes, they would say, "Oh, you've got to remember that. You got to write that down," that sort of thing. And eventually I said, I've got, quite a few years of these sort of situations. Let me put this into book form. And there was, unfortunately, a murder on one of the ships I was on, and I decided that was a good basis or a good focal point to bring together a lot of the other situations that occur on board a ship, and to give people an idea of what really happens behind the scenes.
Exactly. Now, there are things like sick ships where there's a illness that just flies through everybody, passengers and crews. Have you ever have you ever had experience on a sick ship, and would you consider doing something like a murder mystery or some type of mystery around a sick ship?
There is such a thing as a sick ship. Fortunately, it's not one that people usually die in. Sick ship is usually where there's either a flu that gets spread very rapidly, or a gastroenteritis, sick stomach. And these can be very incapacitating because people are throwing up and having diarrhea multiple times, and that's not pleasant. That's not what you go on a cruise for. And if you're a very elderly person or somebody who is immune deficient with certain diseases, and you are subjected to one of these kinds of things, it can make you very sick and you could die. Generally what happens is people just are very ill for a day or so, and we give them some medicine, they get better, and that's the end of it. But it's something that you don't like to see, especially as a ship's doctor, because
not at all.
You and the nurse are going to be working 24/7, trying to keep people healthy, trying to get people better. It's really a major problem. You use up all of your medicine that you have on board. You scramble to the suppliers when you get on board. It's just, it's a major problem, eh?
Right. What's the best thing? Let's say I'm a passenger on a sick ship. What's the best thing for me to do? I don't know if there's anything good, or is there a way to not contract what's going around? You stay to yourself, wash your hands, stuff like that? Or is there something more that you can do?
The best thing to do, if there is a norovirus or one of the other gastroenteritis that's around, is to just be very fastidious with washing your hands. On most ships there are hand wash stations. There are these automatic dispensers of hand washing, and you just have to use them before you do anything that's going to enter your mouth. And if you do that, you're not going to get sick. If you're using a serving spoon in a buffet, you're going to want to wash your hands before you end up then touching your fork. If you make sure you use tongs to pick up things, and even after you've done that, because other people may have used the tongs, you're going to end up using the hand washing before you go and do anything else. And that's the way to do it. And, keep your fingers out of your mouth.
Right, exactly. Most people I think if most people just forget germicides and all the rest of it, if they just wash their hands when they had a cold, and it's amazing the number of people that don't wash their hands after they go to the bathroom or before they eat. It's just, I'm always amazed at the number of people that don't do that. Talking about your book, Dr. Alan Mayhew is a retired cruise ship doctor, and he's going on a cruise, and he's grieving the loss of his wife. Goes on it and meets some eclectic people that make up the passengers and crew, including a woman named Tiffany, who's a cruise ship director. This reminds me of Love Boat. And this doctor solves a series of onboard crimes, including a murder. So it sounds like a fascinating book. You said there was one murder on one cruise that you went on. That's not normal. That's just we hear about things like this because of the media, but I mean, there's so many cruises and so few things like this that happen, correct?
Yes, this is not, I've got 10 years experience on ships, and, it was many years working on a ship before I saw my first murder on the ship. And so it's, if somebody goes on a ship, they're very likely not going to see this or hear about it or whatever, but this is also, although this is based on a true experience, it's also a novel, so you have the ability as an author to write a number of these, and the second one that I'm writing will have a murder on board, but it also, will be a little close to the truth of something else that happened, but, I've taken some literary liberties in describing some of it too, of course.
Well, it sounds fascinating. I can't wait to get it and read it myself. So you've taken some of your journal entries. So some of these, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that some of these characters are actually based on real-life characters that you've met. May not use their names or anything, but the basis of the character is based on some of the people you've met on the cruises. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I was strongly advised that I should not use their names. The name of the cruise ship, of course, is changed. Some of the cities that were visited, of course, have changed, so that there's no way anyone can be thought of as being the villain or whatever. The villain was the villain, but unfortunately, on the cruise ship crime and medical murder mystery, the villain is sitting in a prison somewhere. But no, this is, we're not going to, so anyone who does know me, have no fear, your name is not going to be published in for the whole world to see. Your character may be there, and you may recognize it and go, "Oh my God, is that how I looked?" But you may look like a Star Wars character and not see yourself as being a Star Wars character, but that's how the rest of the world saw you, and lo and behold, you're going to be described that way in the book.
So, Um, what are some of the things and surprises that you saw through your years? Things you didn't expect to see or do? And are any of these things in the book?
Surprises in what way?
I don't know, things that you just took you by surprise. It was something that you never would have guessed would happen, other than a murder on a ship.
Well, I never imagined that people would come to you and ask questions like, oh, officer, can you tell me where the elevator that takes me to the front of the ship is? Oh, officer, can you tell me where the crew sleep at night? And various other questions like, of course, I love that one because I would usually answer that, as many crew will. Oh, remember seeing that little ship that sort of goes behind us at night? Well, they pull that in. We all get onto the onto the little ship, and then in the morning they pull it in, and we come back on the ship. And I mean, unfortunately, what surprises me is that some people believe you when you say that. You know,
very interesting.
You really kind of wonder what goes through people's minds, and that's why my expression about you know, go on a cruise, forget your brain, does sometimes occur. I mean, you know, and that kind of surprises you because I mean, these are people that otherwise are quite normal people, and or you think they are, or they, you know, function rather normally in their world in some city, you know, in Europe or U.S. or Canada or whatever, and you see a totally different side of people, which is fascinating, and I mean makes for great novel writing, but it is surprising.
Very interesting. You mentioned earlier in the program that you sometimes, dependent upon the ship, you have a table that you sit at. Now, how do people get on that table? How, you know, is that something that somebody's appointed to, or is that based on what's the logic to that?
Well, it varies from ship to ship. If you're on a high-end cruise line, Crystal, Silver Seas, Renaissance, Regent, Seabourn, you know, there are sort of the officers are expected to spend time with various passengers at dinner as a matter of, you know, giving them you know, an interesting evening. When you're on some of the more mass media ships, where there are 2,000-3,000 people, obviously you can't be with everybody at all times. So often the cruise ship will select people who have the rather larger cabins. They'll get to sit with the captain, the staff captain, doctor, whatever. Some ships, if you're a member of a certain organization that has booked a lot of passengers, you know, the Super Zip credit card company, so to speak, they'll get a guaranteed evening with an officer as part of their cruise passage. Sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, the hotel manager, you know, picking people who have been frequent passengers and giving them an opportunity to eat with an officer, or they'll try to hook up the single ladies with the single officers, or vice versa. So that's kind of another way of making people feel comfortable on their ship, on their cruises.
Right. It's the perks that you're offered, and very, very interesting. we got a couple minutes left. I just want to say again that your book is available on Amazon.com also, and it's available on your site. It's on Facebook, on my Facebook account, and it's also on cruisewithbruce.com, and there's a link that goes to Blog Talk Radio. So there's numerous ways that my listeners can purchase this, and I'm interested in getting it. We got a couple minutes left, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what you think the hidden gems are, the things that the cruises that people don't think about going on that are really fascinating, and that you think are something that if people have been to the Caribbean 3 or 4 times, what other types of cruises would they be interested in, that kind of thing. Is there anything that comes to mind right off the top of your head?
Well, Antarctica certainly, and Alaska for sure. I mean, even though those are both not, hideaway places, they're fascinating. They're beautiful. They're certainly something you're not going to see in New York, Los Angeles, Baltimore. They're very interesting places. Going through some of the canals in Europe, the rivers in Southeast Asia, cruising along the coasts of some of the islands in Indonesia. I mean, these are all very interesting places to be, and not your usual cruise to, Puerto Rico. Although that can be a beautiful cruise too. And I mean, if you want just, to relax or party or whatever, I mean, it's what people really want. Certainly on some of the cruise ships that I was on, I mean, you saw beautiful scenery, and at the same time, cruises that spend a lot of time at sea can be marvelous. I like transatlantic cruises. I like trans-Pacific cruises where you have 4, 5, 6 days at sea. Gives you time, obviously for me, it gives me time to write, but it gives you time to relax, to go to the gym, to talk to people, to relax, to just look out at the birds who are following you, the dolphins that are following the ship, whatever happens to be there. So it gives you some beautiful time too. And you don't have to get off the ship every day and do something.
Very good. Well, we're into the program. If somebody were going on a cruise for the first time, what bit of advice would you give to them?
Enjoy yourself.
There you go.
Just, go there, be yourself. Don't try to do too much, but enjoy whatever the ship has to offer, and try not to indulge in way too much food so that you don't feel ill. And, be reasonable about whatever you do, and you'll have an enjoyable trip.
Well, that's excellent advice, and it's been a pleasure hosting you this evening. I'd like to follow up sometime in the future with your second book, if it's possible. And I encourage everybody to go to the website cruisewithbruce.com and click on the tab for Blog Talk Radio, and then the link for the book is there. So it's been a great evening. Thank you very much for being my guest this evening, and we'll talk to you some other time.
Sounds very good.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay.